Hello, welcome back. GovDoc Breakdown, no opinions, just facts and summaries of government documents. We are back at it again, May 15th, with a Supreme Court decision. That's right, Supreme Court's back, baby. All right, Supreme Court decision, Barnes v. Felix. So this case was about a tragic event in 2016, which is crazy to think about. 10 years it took to get to the Supreme Court. Wild, where a man named Ashton Barnes was pulled over by a police officer named Roberto Felix for not paying tolls in the Houston, Texas area. Things escalated quickly during the traffic stop, and Ashton Barnes began to drive away, and Roberto Felix, the officer, jumped onto the side of his moving car and within 2 seconds fired 2 shots into the car, killing Ashton Barnes. Barnes's mother sued Felix, saying he used excessive force, violating her son's constitutional rights, specifically the Fourth Amendment that says police can't use unreasonable force when stopping or arresting somebody. So, the general question when this case began was whether Officer Felix's actions were reasonable or went too far. The first court, the district court, and the appeals court, the fifth court, both ruled in favor of Officer Felix. The key thing here is that the court used a rule called the moment of threat rule, which means the court only looks at the exact moment the officer felt threatened. Basically, those 2 seconds he was hanging off of Barnes's car. The lower courts decided that Officer Felix could have reasonably felt his life was in danger, so the shooting was justified. The moment of threat rule did not allow the court to take into account anything that happened before those 2 seconds of feeling threatened, like why Officer Felix jumped onto the car or what led up to the incident being escalated. So the original question of this case was whether the Officer Felix's actions were reasonable, but the Supreme Court took the case to decide whether the moment of threat rule was the right way to judge whether a police officer's use of force was reasonable. And in a unanimous, all judges' decision, they said no, the moment of threat rule was not the right path to take when making the ruling. The Supreme Court said that courts need to look at everything that happened when deciding whether an officer's actions were reasonable. In this case, it would be things like that the stop was for something minor, like toll violations, or that Officer Felix chose to jump on the car, and that could change how the jury or the courts view those final 2 seconds. Basically, the Supreme Court said this moment of threat rule was like putting blinders on the court, forcing them to ignore important details.
Full video located on our channel.